we go. I do believe we are live, so I'll say indeed. And greetings unto you, beloved and holy friends. Thank you for joining me again on this another day. I am tired, uncharacteristically tired. There were, admittedly, a few days of me not sleeping properly, but I then took a power nap today when the power went out. And waking up from that power nap, I did feel significantly more rested. Oh man, I still have the same profile picture on. I feel significantly more rested than I did. But at the same time, I feel tired. I have this sense of having been perceived. Let me just check something real quick for my own sanity's sake. Okay, good. Melt, hey, Lozana. Nice having you here, friend. There's like a bunch of things that I have kind of like in the backlog of my mind. I'm giving myself a second to gather my thoughts as well. Think about how I want to talk about what we've been through. It's not that big a deal, but you know how it is. The last 2 days leading up to this stream, I felt myself trying to say things that was true, right? And yesterday, we properly articulated this feeling I've been having of being an imposter, being accepted, right? Like I was more accepted at this Christmas than I've ever been before. While at the same time, I was less vocal than I've ever been before. And we did end up having a moment yesterday, last night, of me being my old vocal self, right? Like nothing has changed when it comes to that. I just chose not to be myself, right? That's literally what I was doing. I was choosing to not be myself for the sake of comfort, for the sake of not having to think about certain things, for the sake of not going down a rabbit hole, right? That is comfortable or uncomfortable. And it was this matter of, we started talking about our country and how people that are farmers are getting wrecked because there's no support from our government, yada, yada, yada. And then my dad was talking about like, oh yeah, no, this one company will have a seed order. So if you take all the risk, you have to plant it, you have to have the machines to plant it, you have to buy the seed to plant it, you have to water them, you have to run spill points, right, or pivots, you have to power that stuff, you have to pump the water from the ground, that takes energy as well, etc., etc. Like you have to do all of this stuff, and then if you manage to produce more than 6 tons of seed, then they'll buy it. And I'm listening to this. My dad is telling the family this, like, yeah, no, like I don't have a contract. My dad started a contract with some seed growing company for grass. And then they planted that seed on his farm, and not a single one of the seeds came up. And then when he called them and found out, you know, what's going on, and they were like, oh yeah, you know, in the lab it tested 2%. 2%. Turns out 0% was closer to accurate. But even if it was 2%, can you imagine? You buy 100 seeds, only 2 of them, only 2 of the 100 seeds you planted come up, if you're lucky. So of course, the land is lost, you know? Like, it's not lost, but you cannot plant something on it right now because it's now mid-season. So they are willing to cover his electricity costs, and they're willing to cover the diesel, that he spent putting these things in the ground, but that's it, right? And then they let him know that they won't be continuing with the contract, right? After they found out the seed isn't growing, they're canceling the seed on their business side, so no more renewal of contracts. But they'll keep this open order of 6 tons of seeds, right? If my dad can manage to produce it. And I'm listening to this and I go, wow, that sounds nice. You take all the risk for a potential, in maybe it working out, right? And I did say it a little bit off the cuff, like, oh, that sounds good, right? Like sarcastically. And then, the family goes, yeah, but, you know, in capitalism, you do have to take risks. And I go, well, our country used to heavily subsidize our farming industry where farmers didn't have to take that much risk, right? Despite we living in a capitalist system. And then the entire family collectively, no, you're wrong. No, we were never subsidized. I don't know what you're smoking, but we weren't subsidized. Like I get told these stuff. Like they even started making jokes about, how stupid I am to believe this propaganda. And then I go, of course, right in front of them, and I research with the information that is available on the internet, and I start reading after them that yes, in fact, South Africa was heavily subsidized. Like I can read you this little piece I read them even. Uh, there we go. So yes, South Africa's farm industry was heavily subsidized during the apartheid era. So that was like the whole conversation because they were like, oh yeah, no, things were better back then, because we were more capitalisming. And I was like, no, we're capitalisming harder right now than we did back then. We were more socialism back then than we are right now. And then of course, nobody wants to hear that. And then I read this to them. The apartheid government implemented a range of policies and subsidies to support white commercial farmers who were seen as key political constituency. These measures included price controls and guaranteed prices. The government set favorable prices for agricultural products, ensuring that farmers could sell their goods at a profit. Financial assistance. They had subsidized loans and grants for purchasing land, equipment, and inputs like seed and fertilizer. They had land policies. Between 1930 and 1936 Land Act, or the 1913 and 1936 Land Act, allocated the majority of arable land to people dispossessing Black South Africans and ensuring that white farmers had access to the most fertile land, which is, again, a type of communism, right? Communism plus racism, by the way. There was market protections. They had import tariffs and other trade barriers were imposed to protect domestic agriculture from foreign competition. And then there were extension services where they benefited from state fund research, education to improve productivity, right? And I know these things. These things I know because they're known, right? But these individuals, as old as they are, still believe things are the way they were when they were 20. I don't know if I'm saying that under correction. I probably am. I'm wrong in saying that. They don't really think that, but they have this reasoning, like they have this risk appetite, let's say, based on how things were 40 years ago. And it was comical to me. It was comical to me how there's like conversation after conversation about how food is ridiculously expensive now, how they can't afford, like medical care. They can't afford this, can't afford that. Can you believe what this costs? Can you believe what that costs? And then if I had to, like, even for a second, suggest that maybe capitalism is the problem, late stage capitalism is the problem, and that's why we're in this situation we're in right now, then I'm the weed smoking hippie, right? That just wants to kumbaya, that just wants to sit on his ass and do nothing, right? These are the things I'm told. And I want to take from the rich. No. I don't want to take from the rich and give to the poor. I want everyone to have the exact same, right? Whether or not they're a doctor or they're a floor sweeper. I want them to have the exact same. And of course, I never said this. I've said this to you friends as well. If I am I'm a centrist. I would believe it actually, but more leaning towards socialism, right? Not exactly communism. But in socialism, in my idea of socialism at least, I don't imagine us abolishing capitalism completely. I imagine it almost like being a layered system. And if you think about the crypto world that's, actively blooming right now, they have these layered systems as well, right? Where you build one system on another, one system on another, right? And then you have this interoperability that allows you a little bit more transparency in the way that you're building your country. And I'm trying to share these ideas. I'm trying to share these ideas in a way that they would make sense to someone in their 60s, and I fail. I fail spectacularly. Hey, ma. Meow now. It's nice. That's not meow now. Meow Lita. It's nice having you here. So, backtracking just like 1 second, my idea of socialism and the whole layer thing is that we use capitalism as our first layer, and then we build on top of it a layer of socialism, right? And my idea of socialism isn't, grand. It is making sure people have places to sleep at night, making sure people are warm enough or cold enough to not die, making sure people have food to eat, making sure people have, of course, water to drink, and then medical care, right? Access to medical resources. Education, I believe, is also of utmost importance, right? And all of those things wouldn't bankrupt us. In fact, all of those things for every single person on planet Earth can be provided for as little as 30% of our current, production. If we had to spend 30% of our entire world's GDP, for example, we would house, feed, clothe, educate every single person on planet Earth. Every single person on planet Earth, right? And then from there, this is what I was trying to share yesterday. From there, we can start thinking about the next thing, right? Because if we're already, I want to say the word fucked. I don't want to say the word. But if we're already wrecked, right? Thinking about the future is impossible. If I am literally in a state of desperation of where I'm going to live next month, if I'm in a state of desperation about what I'm going to eat tonight or tomorrow, and I'm in a state of desperation about my medical health, that I cannot afford to get treatment or I just cannot get treatment at all, how the hell are we supposed to build a future for ourselves? Like, there's no possibility, at least in my mind, for us to have a positive outlook on reality if we cannot figure this out. And I feel, at least personally, I feel it's like embarrassing. It's embarrassing to our species to exist the way we are right now, right? Like if our rich alien friends had to come and visit us, right? Like let's parse this in a way that all of us would probably understand. When family comes over to your house for Christmas, for example, there is this element of cleaning. There is this element of trying to make your home presentable, trying to put up this facade, this face of, I don't know if sanity is the right word. Let's call it capability. Also not the right word that I'm looking for. I'm looking for, it's like capability. Let's go with capability maybe. Capacity. That's the word I'm looking for. We have the capacity to take care of our space, right? And then we want that optically to be what is perceived by our family or our friends. And then to take that example, this spring cleaning of our house before family comes, if aliens that we were friends with had to come and visit us, if we got a message, hey human beings, it's us, the aliens, and we're totally interested in coming and visiting, and it's going to take us a while to get there. See you in 20 years. What are we going to be doing? If we knew for a fact aliens are coming in 20 years, and they might come sooner, but if we knew for a fact that aliens came in 20 years, what would we be doing? Right? And again, I think from this perspective of embarrassment, I would be so embarrassed if I had to like walk an alien alongside me throughout this world, and I go like, yeah, here are people so impoverished that they cannot even think about next week. Here are people so medically indebted that they can never hope to own anything, not a home, not a car. Here are people literally dying of overconsumption. Right? I would want to crawl into a little shell and disappear. And I've been feeling like that. And then maybe this is my own projection as well. I cannot help but feel our older generations are in part responsible. Right? And this is not me trying to cast shade, it's just me thinking and feeling about the state that we're in. And then as a young person, right, as the new generation, if you will, I'm trying to share ideas and ways of seeing the world that will make a difference, right? We might not make as much profit, albeit, I'll admit that, right? But we can make a difference. We can make a marked difference in actual people's lives, you know, in actual people's quality of life. And it seems like there's not many people wanting that. Or at least there's people that think that in wanting that they won't get to have what they have right now. The doctor will still have prestige. Not only that, but the point for me, at least, is the fact that, you know, adding value to society is you adding value to society, right? No matter, oh, yeah, hello, little Burby. Is it you're the one that's singing? Just came and landed to look at me. Yeah, it's me. It's a person. I'm just like a person and stuff. Yeah. Uh, it's about the fact that we all add value, right? That is the point. Whether you add value in saving someone's life or you add value in washing the dishes, why should you suffer? Why should you suffer? Why should you not have enough money for food or for a house or for means of transportation? Because you wash dishes? Right? That seems a little bit fucked. And again, I don't want everybody to be equaled, right? I don't want to be limited in my potential growth going into the future. I want people to always be given a substrate, right? Like a platform, a surface area with which on they can build. Because if your whole reality, right, month by month, is just falling, right, falling to rent, falling to insurance payments, falling to food costs, falling to etc., etc., etc. At what point do you feel like you can start putting things down? You can start putting brick by brick down to try and build something. I'm sorry if this conversation is not exactly Christmas spirited, but it is the conversation that's been reeling in my mind, and I have felt very unable to talk about it. That's bull. That's bull that they think everyone should have the exact same, whether they're a doctor or a beggar. They're missing the basic and universal basic income. The doctor is still going to be wealthy. Exactly. Exactly, right? Like I'm not advocating for oh, you have a lot money, take all your lot money and then give everybody little money. It's not what I'm advocating for. I'm advocating for we as a collective species have more than enough money, right? Allocating some of our species, our collectives, not one individual's, our collectives value, and making sure people, as you said, LA, have the basics. Is that krios? A krios. It's nice seeing you. Just have the basics, right? Just to not have to worry about housing. Housing alone. Housing is the most fucked one. I have really been uncomfortable in some ways. And I'm willing to admit that there is a trade-off in comfort to discomfort ratios in different bars in ourselves. But I've been uncomfortable living with my parents, right? In part because my dad has been making it very clear that me being here is a financial burden, all right? And I need to do something about that. And we had that conversation, right? But it is this matter of like, this doesn't feel like home to me. This feels like just another landlord's place that I have to pay for to live in. And the fact that that fucking shit is celebrated, bro. I don't get it. I'll admit that part. I do not get it. Oh, okay. But the beggar will not starve or freeze to death. Exactly. The doctor will still have prestige. The doctor will still have more than most people could ever hope for. And in that way, with our technology progressing, the doctor, in the way that he's doing his work right now, will lose his job as well. Right? And this is me not trying to be negative. It's me just talking about the reality of the situation. So many of our surgeries are, I think, 16? I think it's 16. Hey Google, how many total surgeries or percentage of surgeries are actually being practiced by robots right now? Yeah, 17%. So I was like, right. It used to be 1.8. 2012, it was 1.8. Now in 2022, it's 17. 17%, right? And guess what? That number by 2030 is going to be 70%, right? So the doctor will lose his job as well in the way that he's doing it right now. And then guess what? If the doctor cannot find work right now again, having just a universal basic income, something that can support him, will give him a chance to at least not absolutely get wrecked by the system too. Agreed, forcing it is wrong. They all will, but if you want, we can turn the robots off if you really want to do it. If you turn the robots off while they're practicing surgery on a person, that person dies, right? And then you have inadvertently murdered them. If 70% of our surgeries are happening to robots and we turn them off, then suddenly 70% of people that need surgery won't get it, right? Like there won't suddenly be this mass of doctors coming online suddenly with the skills to actually do the surgeries with their own hands, right? And then that being said, that 70% of people getting robot surgeries will not, even for a second, tolerate having a human being touch them, because human beings have like 92% accuracy rate, robot 99.99% accuracy rate, right? Or whatever, you know? And it's gonna be a matter of like, oh yeah, this makes sense. And this is just medicine, right? It's gonna happen for everything. Because that's how we built our world. We built our world on capitalism. And in the capitalist world, one of the ways in which you can save money is by firing people and replacing them with robots, right? So again, we're back to the fractal of, I don't think that's gonna change. I don't think capitalism is dying tomorrow. But we are going to have to build something new on top of it. The system as it is right now is a little bit scuffed. Maybe there's a part of me that feels a sense of hopelessness, let's call it, right? Because one of the things that was had as a conversation yesterday is about risk and about how the things I'm talking about have risks involved with them. right? Taking care of old people, the risk is that they will become lazy and they won't want to do anything and they'll become useless. That's the risk, right? That's a risk I'm willing to take because I have been, at least in some way, been taken care of, right? The time before we came here again, my dad was willing to let me sleep in my room and eat food and stuff, right? So in that way, I had some sort of basic uh, needs met, right? And because of those basic needs being met, I was given the room, I was given the capacity to consider what I want to do, to consider what is the most valuable thing that I can contribute to society, what is the most meaningful impact that I can make immediately. And this, and us meeting one another, arose from that capacity, arose from that room that I had. And I believe that that will be the case for every single person on planet Earth. It might take others longer, but everybody will eventually reach a point in their own hearts where they're asking themselves some questions, right? Some people will numb themselves out of those questions, admittedly, but that won't be comfortable. It won't be the right thing to do, right? And again, it's going to be a percentage of our species that we cannot not take the risk to take care of, right? The other side of the risk profile is oblivion, right? Our species going out on a whimper, our population dropping slowly but surely more and more. As a result, us losing intelligence, us losing capacity, us losing people that can actually help build the world. And then slowly but surely, we just cease to exist, right? That's the alternative. We either thrive going forward or we cease to exist. And it seems like there is this race to one side of the spectrum. Trios, bless again. What hypotheticals are we speaking of? We're speaking of the hypothetical of what a world would look like that takes care of people, right? Like we live on a world. We live on a world and we like as people to tout ourselves as the apex predators, right? We tout ourselves as like the rulers of this planet, like the bosses, the OGs, the main dudes, right? Meanwhile, our animals, our pets, the birdies that fly outside, they live free, right? Food is provided for them by the world. They get love, they get to have babies, they get to continue their existence. While we literally let our own people, our own species die on the streets without food, let them freeze to death. Like it fucking breaks my brain. Like how is that real? How can we call ourselves the apex predators? How can we call ourselves an advanced species? How can we call ourselves intelligent if that's what we do to ourselves? I think it doesn't make sense to me. It honestly doesn't make sense to me. I guess greed could make some sense. But it doesn't make sense to me how we can justify that. Again, rolling it back all the way to that whole embarrassment thing. Right? Like, is the collective species, are the ultra rich not embarrassed? I guess not. I guess they can afford not to be. That's not how money works, Mel. I guess not, but still. Off in the right time. You can still train to do the job, and we can turn them off if we want to work of your own free will, is what I meant. And not turn them off just to turn them off. The one we need to. Agreed. I feel you, Krios. I had this conversation a little bit with my younger siblings, or my younger cousins and brother and sister as well. Right? I believe that by the year 2030, most jobs would have been taken. And I'm saying most jobs, like at least 90%, if not more. I think 90% of jobs will no longer exist. Not the way they do right now. Sure, new jobs can be created, but for 90% of jobs to be lost in the next 6 years, next 5 years, is too fast, right? Yes, industrial revolution, and people lost their jobs, but new jobs were created. The industrial revolution still, in the grand scheme of things, happened kind of slowly, right? It happened over 80 years. 80 years is enough time to create new jobs and think about what we can do next. 5 years isn't. It isn't, unfortunately. Right? Like we are going to have to fundamentally change the way we value human beings. That's what I believe is going to be required of us. I believe we need to tokenize human beings. And that sounds like the most hectic shit I've ever said. And I get that, right? But it means to me, when you tokenize a person, you turn them into the thing of value, right? And now you become a part of a network. You are one of the units of currency in this network, right? And wherever you go, you are still money. You are still the thing of value. You are the thing of value, not the food, not the nice house, not the car. Because again, if you died, suddenly the food, the house, the nice car means nothing to you, right? Can do nothing for you. But how do we do that? How do we get people to start seeing human beings as the ultimate source of value on our planet? I believe, again, some sort of blockchain technology is going to help. And I mean, your family is so into Christianity. Haven't they read the Bible? All those stories are about feeding the hungry and clothing the naked. They're willing to admit, this, just for the sake of this argument, LA. They're willing to admit that the ideas that I'm sharing is of godly accord, right? That the Bible teaches the things I'm teaching. And then they will counter it with, but it won't work. And I go, okay, cool. Cool. God says so and so, but you don't think what God says can work. Okay. And then it just like brings this energy in me of like, I'll fucking do it myself. I'll fucking do it myself. I don't know how long it will take me, but I will live forever to make sure it happens eventually. I will gene edit myself. And that was also another thing, right? The fact that I am pro all of these things. Like there was this conversation about why am I, as Melt, not earning the kind of income they're earning. And all of them are engineers, all right? Engineers and business owners. And why am I, as 26-year-old, if I know so much about how the future is supposed to be, why am I not earning the same capital that they are? And I go, give me some time. By the time I'm your age, we can have this conversation again, I say. And then this collective, will be dead by then, comes out of them. And I'm like, oh, okay. We'll be dead by then. And the only thing that I could think about that is the fact that I believe medical tech will change enough that they'll live longer than they anticipate. But I don't think they will. Because again, in the same way as all of the other ideas I've been sharing with them, the idea of editing your genes, rolling back your own genetic information to rejuvenate yourself, is just as foreign to them as all of the other things I've said. So they will literally rather die than live the life that I think we're supposed to live. Right? And I'm saying that kind of liberally because, again, it is what I think. It is what I think. I think we're supposed to live good lives as human beings, right? And I think a good life isn't just the work you did, right? I think you can have a good life. In fact, I think having a good life is actually pretty detached. I think it's a large part of your life, right? Work, in my mind, is how you change the world, right? And in that way, if you're actively applying effort in your life, and that effort is changing the world, you are working. You are literally working. You are adding value. You are adding change to this system that we're in. Maybe we need to reframe what work is as well. Just games would make me happy. Who needs a real job if you could be Superman? I don't know. Maybe for you, just games would be amazing. But I used to play games as well, and I have a hard time playing them these days. Or do they only pay attention to the Old Testament for the most part? I'm not a cash crop. All my plans revolve around building a better system. You want the team, bro. I'm doing the same thing. I'm proud of you, dude. Like seeing stuff like that really inspires me, dude. Makes my heart go like, oh, thank goodness there's other people that also want the best for ourselves. Now I've seen the other side for real. With my real eyes, the world we see is but a game. Live only the best life. I do agree with that statement as well. I think that's why I stopped playing computer games as much. It's because I realize, the game-esque nature of this experience. Every single day is another level for me to grind, for me to gain some experience points, for me to consciously evolve. That is what we do in this stream, after all. Consciously evolving. I feel a lot better for what it's worth, right? The previous 2 days, I felt very quiet, and I feel like my voice is where it's supposed to be right now. I get to talk, I get to speak my voice. Feels good. The game can feel real, but it's not a game of Earth. But this is not a game of Earth. You think, I don't know if you think this, I'm asking, do you think that this game we're playing is not an earthly one, right? Like there's some sort of weirdness with aliens, almost like seeding this game. And I'm willing to kind of go down that rabbit hole with like, hey, Morgan Seymour. I don't know if I said it correctly, but it's nice having you here. Like the Anunnaki, right? Like them aliens that might have bred our species to be gold miners. And then they left, and they left us on the planet, and we had to kind of figure things out for ourselves. But in that, we still have that gold mining, like, biology. We still have that, like, must extract resource, must dig as much as can. Right, and that is pretty game-esque. Gamifying our own neurons. Seymour, that's cool. So yeah, now I hear you. I do hear you on that. But I don't know about that, because I believe if there was an Anunnaki and they were like a super advanced species, they wouldn't use human beings or the equivalent thereof. They would use robots. Right, Moss? Surely they would use robots. Melt, you are the robot. No, please. Biological robots. We might as well be. Perception is reality. Yeah, the stream topic is about perception. If we can control perception, we can make any dream real. Life is but a dream. And I am perceiving it as real. I do relate and resonate with that a lot, Krios. We are robots, lol. I study too much. Technically, we might be quantum robots, which is cooler than just normal bipedal code executors. Like I do think there's an element of quantum to our brains. However, we still do have code. Our DNA amongst them. Our DNA amongst them. Our societal, again, perceptions amongst them. Our ideas of what success is amongst them. And then I like to when we talk about these things come all the way back to the perception of self, right? That if perception is reality, how do you perceive yourself? I'm down in Cape Town for the holidays and it is hot. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Morgan. My cousin, the one that I actually got to see here for Christmas again, is moving to Cape Town in February. She's gonna go and work at a prostheticist's clinic or something. Hope that it's nice there at least, Morgan. It being hot in Cape Town. Like it was raining here for a while now, so I don't know if it was the same kind of weather in Cape Town. But when it's raining, it's okay, right? It's like 25 degrees Celsius, and the sun is full blasting again, so I am sweating. South African weather is relentless. Or is that just my perception? Maybe to someone living in the Congo, this weather is nice. Hey Google, what's the temperature in the Congo right now? Oh, 29 degrees Celsius. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice there too. It's kind of the same temperature as here. Hey Google, which countries are directly on the equator? Hey Google, tell me the temperature in Ecuador and Colombia right now. 14 degrees Celsius. Hey Google, hey Google, tell me the temperature in Colombia. I mean, hey Google, where is it the highest temperature in the world right now? What? That feels almost, I want to say unbelievable, but I mean, it might be. Uh, it's it's the Californian desert named Furnace Creek. Goes up to like 56 degrees Celsius. Hey Google, what's the highest temperature in the world right now? No, bro, like it keeps giving me that same stat. I don't want to know some temperature at some point. I want to know right now. Let me hit this button. Me and my friends are having conversations about temperature and how hot it is. What is the hottest place on earth right now? Go and look at the internet, find out right now, not historically, right now, today. Searching. It's thinking about it. It's thinking. As of December 26, 37. Huh. Ethiopia. So Ethiopia is the hottest, getting up to 37 right now. So the Earth globally has maybe cooled down a little bit. I don't know if I can say that really. I think it probably rained as well a lot on Africa right now, so that's probably a part of it. But that's basically the temperatures we've been experiencing here in South Africa. Like 37. We had 37 days, multiple days, just before the rain started. Bless you, Ethiopian friends. Stay hydrated. Mm, let me see if I can. Oh. All right. I guess not. Not just yet, at least. Perception. How am I perceiving this moment? So easy to perceive our moment as less than satisfactory, or as failing, as falling short in one way or another. I'm going to perceive in semi-silence this moment with you, friends. We were meant to live for so much more. Have we lost ourselves? Somewhere we live inside, somewhere we live inside. We were meant to live for so much more. What a surreal thought that is. It is something to perceive. So many of us are living simply for living. And maybe that's noble or romantic or admirable. But really, the way it feels to me at least is shameful. I think the Stoics, for example, would not be very happy about where we are. They would understand. I think if the Stoics existed right now, they would literally be giving us the same advice they were giving themselves. They were giving their students. How would Ram Dass see this world? He did live for most of it, to be honest. Terence McKenna, he saw a lot of it as well. The internet was just starting to come online when he died. Would they be ashamed of us? Would they be ashamed of us? I don't think they would be ashamed of us, really. I do think they would be ashamed of our species from the perspective of our extremes, those outlier people. Making me think about the fact that even during those times, right, Roman times, Greek times, like ancient philosophy, one of the things that we're taught, by some at least, is the fact that you're fine. You're fine, right? There are some fucked up people out there. And those fucked up people are thriving. They're living great lives. They're like absolutely banking right now. And in that way, if you feel yourself doubting or limiting yourself from the perspective of thinking that you're not worth one thing or another, that you're somehow not a good person, that you're somehow undeserving, how about you stop? Stop that. Know that you are loved. And I appreciate you, friends, for joining me for today's live stream. See you maybe for a little bit of a horizontal one, and then I'll say goodbye for the day. Goodbye, everybody. Love you.